Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight. This is the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock or a related genre and talk a bit about it and let you guys know what I like about it, and hopefully you guys will check it out if you like the description that I'm providing. So today I have a really interesting one. It came out quite a while ago, earlier in the year. I believe it even came out in January. But it's one that's been on my radar for all this time and I've wanted to get around to reviewing. And so finally I'm here talking about it, catching up a bit on some of the great albums that have come out. So this is Deposed King and their album One Man's Grief. This is eclectic prog from Hungary. This is actually a Hungarian duo of Daniel Kriffel and Dominik Kirilai, based in Budapest. And this is their debut record, and it features a lot of influences and a lot of different things in the mixture that make for a really fascinating stew of modern progressive rock. There's influences such as post-rock, psychedelic rock, progressive folk, jazz, even some heavy prog moments, and some classical inspirations. So you really run the full gamut of a lot of different things and styles. I'm really reminded of maybe Steven Wilson and some of his more atmospheric, lighter music, Lunatic Soul, or really anything by Maurice Duda from Riverside. Later era Anathema is another good reference point. So you're getting a bit more of an atmospheric, lighter sound, more post-rock influences. There's sections that are more ambient and that really take their time to develop, but they're really beautiful. It's a very chill album in a lot of parts, just almost serene. But then there's moments also that are more dark and brooding and, you know, add a lot of different elements and a lot of different things. That's why it's a fairly eclectic album, even if it stays close to this post-rock type vibe, you know, and it's really cool that this duo was able to create this interesting music that allows for space and development and never feels boring or never extends too long. It's really a great listen and really flies by. There's some really cool tracks here across the record. It's about a 55-minute record. We start with First Light, which is a soothing electronica ambient atmospheric opening to get you into the feel of the album before we get into Caves, which features some nice bright guitars and bass and drums at the start, then lays into a more somber mood with acoustic guitar and atmosphere. Like I said, you can feel that Maurice Duda, Lunatic Soul sort of inspiration here, and the post-rock vibes, more instrumental and ambient, and some beautiful soundscapes that really take their time to develop. Endless Hours is the next track, which reminds me a bit of Pink Floyd, giving that ambience and very soft and contemplative mood. Get some shimmering synths and more of an electronica beat in the back for a very hypnotic feel. And it ends with some soft piano and sounds of rain and strings in the back, just really soothing. And a lot of the album is instrumental. There are vocals in select sections of the album. It's almost half instrumental based, but then half vocal based. So you get a bit of flavor of both sides of their sound. Path of Forlorn comes next with a bit of a folky vibe and great bass and understated acoustic guitar strumming and light vocals. Develops into a track with a bit more energy and a psychedelic stoner rock type vibe, maybe like a band like Motorpsycho. And it gets heavier for one of the best instrumental moments of the album before it slows down into almost a loungy jazz type section with jazzy keys and a light trumpet sound in the background. Really a great track that showcases the diversity from that ambient post-rocky type of place to a heavier psychedelic stoner rock type movement to some lighter jazzier fare. I think it really runs the gamut in a fascinating way. Half Light starts with their signature electronica vibes with chiming guitars and skittering beats, creating a very relaxing effect. I love the soundscapes that swirl around with some tasteful playing in the back, never losing its chill vibe, and I love the violin work in this track as well. That really adds a texture. Fading Shadows is another chill opener that settles on a somewhat early Porcupine Tree type vibe with tasteful guitars and pleasant vocals. I think also of later era Anathema, as I mentioned, just really light, very pleasant atmospheric prog. There's a great guitar solo about 5 minutes in that's perfectly placed, that feels like it could be delivered by Steven Wilson. Just a really great track leading into Sirens of the Sun, which is a short cinematic piece leaning into their electronica type sound. And then Ceasing to Exist, which has a great opening, some bass lines that give an almost jazzy flavor, and then things get heavier into an almost Opeth style direction with some sparse growling vocals even to add another texture and flavor to the album before things get more lighter and ambient with an uneasy vibe as it continues. Some impressive drum sounds that lead to a heavier riff. For a brief section, we get a bluesy psychedelic guitar passage. Some light flutes lead into a heavier section that's darker and brooding with some vocals over the top. And it ends with spacey synth washes and reverbed electric guitar for a soothing finale. And then we get a little coda at the end of Last Light, mostly just piano and ambient sounds over the top. Builds with some nice string orchestration and a classical feel, just giving the perfect ending for this album. So it's just a really beautiful album that really goes in a lot of different directions, but never feels like it's too scattered and too out there, because sometimes an eclectic album like that has a bunch of different influences and goes from one thing to the next can feel a little bit scattered and not so cohesive. But this in fact feels very cohesive and very singular. Feels like an album that really holds well together and has this underlying vibe that really works well in its style. And I think the underlying vibe that's most present is that post-rock type ambient sound that they're really dialing into and really letting wash over the listener and developing and allowing for that to really showcase itself. But it never gets boring or tired. Some post-rock albums I have a hard time listening to because it can really drone on for quite too long and my mind starts to wander and I feel like I'd like to move on to a new passage. But this, they do a great job in moving to new passages and moving to new flavors and textures in the sounds. So it really stood out to me as an incredible release. And I'm always happy to highlight bands that are young, that are just getting their name out there. And that a duo was able to pull off this type of thing is really fantastic. I believe all the drum work on it is programmed drums, so I'm really surprised that it sounds so organic and so satisfying as an album based on the work that they've done here. So just a really, really great sound that I recommend to people who really like that lighter atmospheric style prog, you know, who like the Lunatic Soul records, those early records by them, some of those later era Anathema records, some of the lighter Porcupine Tree era Lightbulb Sun type of sound. I really like it a lot. I think it's really great. And I would urge you guys to go check it out if any of those descriptions stand out to you as something you'd be interested in hearing. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you appreciated this review and that it inspires you to go check out this music, because it's really, really well done and well crafted and showcases a duo that's on the rise and hopefully will get even more credit and more attention in the prog space. So thank you guys, and I'll hopefully catch you in a new video sometime down the road. So thank you guys, and enjoy the music out there. Bye everybody!